Liverpool 0, Nottingham Forest 1. Forest's first win at Anfield since 1969, before Nuno was born. That long ago, 2 years after the Summer of Love. An incredible win for those tricky trees, despite Alisson saying after the game, we played better than the opponent and didn't deserve to lose. In the first half, they just defended and kicked long balls. It was Forest who got all 3 points, Jim Campbell, and that's what matters.
It is, and we've got to get out in front of this, because basically a lot of us, myself included, and some listeners, to be fair, predicted Forest to do quite badly this season and go down, and it already looks like that might not happen.
Yeah, Vish thought that Nuno would be sacked first.
I thought that as well, but I mean, we're bang wrong on that, aren't we? Clearly.
Yeah, I love how Vish didn't just simply retort, yeah, but so did you.
Yeah, you've literally...
I could have done that as well.
But you guys are such lovely chaps. You thought you'd let me do it to myself. No, we did. Well, look, it's early days.
It is.
It is early days. Hey, we all remember Phil Brown and Hull City, don't we? Although they did stay.
Are we starting this section where they've won for the first time since 1969 at Anfield with, yeah, but it'll be sacked soon enough?
Yeah, trying to cover our own back.
I think
we'll show him.
Look, at the moment, there is egg on our faces, or those of us who said that, certainly myself.
But some of us like egg.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So the joke is not on us,
no,
I would say. But it was a brilliant win for Forest. They played it very, very well. And what Alisson's saying there, well, he said after the game, of course, is that Forest, I don't think even had a shot on goal in the first half. It was very much contain. And Yates, the captain, said, wanted to make sure the crowd were quiet, which is difficult at Anfield, as we know. We wanted to, quieten the crowd, I suppose would be a better way of saying it. It was all about not letting them play through the centre, block it and stodge it all up, Andy, and then hit them with those subs. And it worked a treat.
Yeah, but what Alisson said there is exactly what teams say when they got completely tactically done. It reminds me of Rodri after Spain lost against Scotland.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we would never lower ourselves to playing that kind of football sort of business. It's like, come on, just say like they punked you on the day. That's fine.
Also, the way whenever they try and explain it in that way, I feel like other managers are there watching Match of the Day, you know, with the pen and pad go,
yes.
So what exactly did they do? Long balls, right, tick. Yeah. Stodged it up, brilliant, tick.
Yeah.
Because I think Forest, okay, you're right, they did play it in quite a reductive way in the first half, which is absolutely their right to do away at Liverpool, by the way.
And as loads of teams do, let's be honest.
Yes, and it's very difficult to...
Yeah, Man City might do that.
And it's very difficult to successfully do at Liverpool as well, I think is a point to make. But I didn't come away from that game thinking, oh, Liverpool were really unlucky.
No, I didn't.
I didn't feel that at all. I felt like... It's weird because of the way they've played so far this season and the way they've played in recent years, but I felt really limited. That doesn't often happen to them at Anfield. In the Forest obviously felt as if they'd been in a game and they were committed and their tactics worked, but it was maybe a little bit smoother than they might have dared to expect.
Yeah, possibly. I think maybe that's why Nuno obviously fancied this. I mean, Yates was saying in the huddle before the game, apparently, like, you know, we're a big club, we've got to think like a big club and all that kind of stuff. Let's not be overawed by these kind of occasions. And who Nuno went with in the midfield for, you know, obviously Hudson-Odoi, who you would think would be starting games at least, or, you know, contributing more than just kind of 20 minutes or whatever he got off the bench. And obviously he made a huge contribution. He obviously, that's what the plan was, is to kind of go, right, let us not get overrun in midfield. We've seen that. Look at sorry to say it, Vish, but look at against Manchester United. I mean, again, like that Liverpool midfield is still quite potent. And so he thought, right, well, let's just stop that. But also, it did require the fullbacks, Aina in particular, and Moreno as well. But they required the fullbacks to do their jobs and do them extremely well, which they did.
Yeah.
You know, on another day, you know, just a little lapse of concentration or whatever, and maybe Liverpool get a bit of joy.
I mean, they're two quite capable defensive fullbacks, which you can't say about every team's fullbacks in this division, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it, you know, it required Forest to step up, but clearly there was, like, just from what they said after the game, it seemed like there was a huge belief among them going into the match that they could do something.
Yeah.
And of course they did.
Absolutely. And I think the fullbacks are an interesting one. I know Alex Moreno joined from Villa in the summer. I was a little bit surprised to see him go, because I thought he was a bit of a sort of like cult figure there. But I suppose he's, you know, in his 30s now. And I think a lot of people were looking at Forest as maybe a potential candidate to go down because they They've signed a lot of players again. It's quite chaotic there. But actually, when you look at the squad on paper, it's like, oh no, they've got some really good experience in there, and there's a good blend. And obviously, that's come to the fore there. It's that experience. Like, they're in their third season in the Premier League. So, like, I think we still think of them as maybe being quite sort of like kind of like I know what you mean. Kids on the block a little bit.
To establish themselves.
Yeah, but they feel like they're, I guess, maybe clearly ahead of people's expectations. And Murillo in there is a brilliant player. Callum Hudson-Odoi has got his Hadouken goal. Same goal every time. It's really hard to pull off. Yeah. It's really, really impressive. They're like Awoniyi and Wood have got goals in them as well. So, yeah, I think maybe we're all just guilty of underestimating them, and perhaps Liverpool were as well a little bit.
Well, maybe. I think what that kind of result and performance does, though, is that, again, one or two of the more attacking players, like Elanga and Hudson-Odoi, came off the bench. So it was a more kind of defensive setup that he went for, and it worked. But what that means is, if you're on the sidelines watching that, is everyone is busting a gut to get on the pitch and to try and keep everybody happy, which, as you say, Jim, it's been well documented about the number of players this and all that. It's been done to death. But look at James Ward-Prowse, who made his debut for Forest, goes straight into that midfield. Very solid performance from him. So this all bodes very well for us to start the season very, very well indeed. And when they start to play against teams who are not Liverpool, and they don't play at stadiums that are Anfield, then they'll be thinking, well, we can flex a little bit more.
Yeah, and they've the City ground and their form there has sort of propped them up, and the atmosphere they create there has really propped them up since they got promoted back to the top flight. But going back to what Jim was saying, he's absolutely right. I think if you look at, I think it's easy to look at Forest when they're signing players and go, oh, they're just signing players again. That's what they do. They sign players in huge volume. But actually, players like Ward-Prowse, Nikola Milenkovic at centre-back, they are players that you would no way have expected them to be able to get a year ago. Yeah. And they are now. And those are difference makers. So, I mean, really, it sounds a bit reductive, but it is all about, say, giving Morgan Gibbs-White and increasingly Elanga and Hudson-Odoi a platform to do their stuff, isn't it? Because Hudson-Odoi is such an unusual career.
I know what you mean.
He was so fated when he came through at Chelsea, and obviously there was a sort of tug of love with Bayern, and they wanted to pay a lot of money for him. A club that prides itself on having absolutely top quality
wide players. Did you say tug of love?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did. It's unusual to imagine like Bayern or Chelsea in a love context, but I just thought I'd throw it in.
I don't think that's why he's pulled you up on that.
I'm not pulling anybody up on stuff. Gordon Bennett. It gets worse. Anyway, carry on.
But I think from him to go to that point, to a point where he couldn't really get in a top division team, it's taken a while for him to turn it around, and you saw gentle steps towards that last season. There were moments where he looked really good last season, but only moments, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
But maybe this could be a season where it's, not all down to Gibbs-White pulling a rabbit out of a hat.
Well, possibly, because, Hudson-Odoi pulled a big old goal out of his hat, didn't he, of course, with that one. And he's got quality, as Andy said. He's played in big games. You think about the, medals he's won at Chelsea. Okay, he wasn't one of their main players, but still, we know the quality. He's got a couple of England caps. You thought maybe he might go and get a few more, although England are quite stacked in those positions. But he's got a famous goal. It's the start of the season. What can he do this season? What can he go on and do?
He can, ideally, for our sakes, go on to get his manager sacked.
Yeah.
Have him
incriminating
photos.
Forest get relegated and you and I are spared our blushes.
It's not really about him or them, really, is it? It's about us. No, really impressive. I thought, you touched on it at the start, the way they set up. They essentially started with 4 central midfielders. Clogging up, as Alison said, but the introduction of Elanga and Hudson-Odoi.
By the way, we're very much using those stodge and clogs. That's not what Nuno says, right? We want to clog it up.
Yeah.
Stodge. We go for the stodge.
I mean, he might have
you see that handsome Brazilian over there, the one who looks like a Hemsworth brother. They're going to ruin his day.
Yeah. No, you're
stodge.
Right. Anyway, carry on. Sorry. So they set up like that.
Yeah, and then the introduction of Elanga and Hudson-Odoi gave them that width, and I think what's interesting with those two is, well, I think maybe collectively they cost like 25 million, if that. Like they, considering, what they sold Brennan Johnson for, and we'll probably go on to him later on. But yeah, like an exceptional bit of business, but also gives them a feel of a more established Premier League side, because I think in that first season, with the number of players they signed, you looked at it and thought, right, he's only been there for 5 minutes, he's only been there for 10 minutes. And it didn't really feel like they had a core because everything was just coming together. But
even if it wasn't that bad, because I know, again, a lot has been made of that. And some people say, well, actually, it was only 1 or 2 more than that. But even with the fact is, it was kind of ridiculed, really, across the board.
Well, I mean, it was ridiculed because of what ended up happening anyway with their, PSR violation, yeah? So, I mean, that kind of speaks for itself. They didn't really think about that. And but they managed to weather it last year. And that probably gave them a bit more confidence and sense that they're an established team, because it's like, I suppose only if you're an established team can you get away with that kind of shit, yeah? But the other thing I thought was interesting was, we've not really touched on Liverpool yet, but those subs from Forest come after a triple sub from Arne Slot with, it basically changes the whole front line. And it was interesting because I didn't think Liverpool played that badly, but it felt like the individuals were I don't know, playing a bit selfishly.
Well, that's what Slot alluded to, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't allude to it. He bloody said it.
His quote was very interesting, or a quote about that. He said, it wasn't good enough today because too many individual performances in ball possession were not up to the standards that I'm used to from these players, which is so direct.
Yeah. But it's true as well. Like, I thought with Salah, that was a little bit of like out of form Salah.
Yeah.
Even though he's not out of form, as we've seen over the last month or so.
But don't you think that we're talking about, or you're talking about form from the last month or so? I think this is a very particular situation from Liverpool against an opponent which, as we've said, is very well organised and very stubborn. And so Liverpool come back from an international break where a lot of their players have done a lot of travelling.
Yeah, a lot of South Americans.
It looked like it. It really looked like it. And of course, they've got half an eye on the fact they're playing Milan away in the Champions League this week. So you've got to try and manage that situation and do the bare minimum.
And look, on another day they win, or they don't.
Yeah, they
lose.
win 1 or 2 nil.
Forest had to be perfect.
Exactly.
Diaz hit the post, and in a chilling portent for either Forest or Liverpool, unclear who yet, Matt Sells laid an egg, and we know that is a worrying sign.
Blimey. And I think it's a sign for us to move on, Jim.
Agree.
Quite frankly. So, great win for Forest. 1-0 to the Forest. 1-0 to the Arsenal.
It was.
In the North London derby, Jim. North London is red.
It is.
You look like the cat that got all the cream despite doing nothing.
I did nothing.
In this victory for Arsenal. They won their 3rd consecutive LND at Tottenham Hotspur. NLD, sorry. Did I say NDL?
London North Derby. Still sort of works.
Yeah, okay.
It was like your pro-evolution moment.
I think so. North London white lost to North London red. First time we've achieved it since 1988. 3 consecutive wins at Spurs. And of course, the goal came from a set piece. Gabriel, with a type of header that was just like, get in!
Yeah, I think that's his 15th goal for Arsenal since he arrived.
Incredible.
Obviously, he wasn't scoring for us before he arrived. And he's a real...
Always possible for a defender, though.
Yeah, he's a real genuine match winner. I don't know how many of those have been single goals in a 1-0 win, but it feels like 15 of them have been that.
It's John Terry-esque.
Massively. I mean, this is Arsenal's defence won them the game very literally here in this sense. They were not great on the ball. Passing was very, very sloppy. Obviously, they set up with a 4-4-2, which maybe we'll see the WM against Man City next weekend. Nice to see it.
With formations, though, nowadays. It's obviously been like this for a while, especially on the continent as well. Whereas, they played that formation, what they're doing. But it's a 4-4-2
so
between the 35th and the 41st minute, and then they go to another formation.
But also, you get the, usually you'd be able to see it from like when they line up from a kickoff. But actually, you get the team sheet, and so many people have set plays from kickoff that they don't actually line up as that. So you never actually see them in those moments.
That's true. It's very true. I think, obviously, from a Spurs point of view, there's a lot of optimism before the game. Because they're looking at that thinking, there's a new season of the Grand Tour out. That's great. Yeah. It's called Sand Job. That's right up my street. That's exactly my type of humour.
Yeah.
And it's finally gilet season. You can crack out one of the bad boys you bought recently, maybe the navy blue one or the other navy blue one.
Literally 20 minutes from you.
And obviously, Arsenal don't have a midfield. So you're thinking, this is probably going to be all right. But no, didn't turn out that way, did it?
That's the
I'm done.
You broke character there for a moment, and expect tweets.
I'm not going to read them
or X's.
I did like the obviously it's like it's the most heated rivalry in the Premier League,
in the North London area.
In the North London area.
All Barnet fans will be angry,
but they. I'll see both of them later.
Oh, I see.
But
They are going to win, by the way. There's two of them. One's going to lean down behind you.
But the thing I did like was you kind of get that sense of kinship, really, because everyone rocks up and they know they want it to be a good game, and in kind of quite genial spirit, Spurs also decide not to play in midfield, because you look at that lineup and you're like, oh shit, like has he got mad? Or
Do you think he's cracking up?
I don't think he's cracking up, but I think what you're seeing here is
Pressure at the Prem.
I think what you're seeing here is a less kind of a less polished Ange, which I think he saves for behind closed doors.
Well, we talked, didn't we, about the fact that he's backed himself into this corner that he has really no interest in getting out of, didn't we, on the ramble last week about that idea of there is no plan B. He's not interested in the existence of a plan B. And for the first time, speaking to, I know quite a lot of Spurs fans and obviously come into contact with quite a lot through work. And for me, it feels that for the first time, people are starting to feel, is this really going to work out? Is he just going to go down doing the thing that he's not the coach who's going to take him into the top four, I think. I feel quite strongly on that now.
Yeah.
I think
that's really sad.
I think there's a real interesting...
Would you disagree?
I mean, not on what we've seen so far. But it's early days, though, isn't it? It has to be...
It is early days. I think, though, to maybe kind of add to your point there, is that I do look at it, I think it started so well under him last season, of course, and there was... just a tiny little bit of frivolous talk about can challenge for the title and all that, and obviously he felt like a breath of fresh air. That was it, wasn't it? Really, that seems like a long time ago now.
It does.
And look, they didn't have it. They still got a European place last season. It wasn't terrible, but of course maybe a touch disappointed they didn't finish fourth. I think that the real mark of a very handy, very good manager is, can they turn it round?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I think that's the problem. I think if it's going good, great. But to kind of turn this around now and try and get everybody going, I know what you mean. He looks a little bit dejected, a little bit annoyed.
I mean, I think the bottom line is that they really lack the wit to get through Arsenal.
Yeah.
I thought.
There's a bit of naivety maybe, and he wants to play a certain way, and I admire that. But I'm just not sure. And when I say turn it round, I'm not saying, they're going to have a disastrous season at all. But in terms of trying to get them back to where they were playing and the feel around the club that it was at the start of last season, I'm not sure.
I think that was circumstance and timing and context. I don't think they can do that again.
Right.
I think the set piece thing is a really interesting conversation because it keeps coming up with the quotes he made earlier this year about not being bothered about them.
Well, let me read it, Jim, because it's this is what he said.
Yeah. Which is, to be fair, why it keeps coming up.
Exactly, yeah. When he was talking about his team's poor record at defending set pieces, he says, I'm not interested, never have been, not in the least. It's not the first time I've been questioned about set pieces in my coaching career. To quote Billy Joel, you may be right, I may be crazy, but it's maybe a lunatic you're looking for. Eventually I will create a team that has success, and it won't be because of working on set pieces. Yeah. That is as clear and as frank as it can be.
It is, but he also said in the post-match that they work on set pieces as much as anybody else, and also they have a set piece specialist. So I think they hired in the summer. They certainly have a coach who is assigned that role. So I think this is maybe a little bit of a smokescreen where he's making this weakness about him rather than his players, sort of buying them the time to improve on it.
Is that plan working, Jim?
Not yet, but it's early days, isn't it? If the guys only come in the summer,
and maybe it's an unfair comparison because Arsenal were really strong from those situations.
I think this is a big part of it. Yeah. Arsenal were really dominant defensively in the box, and really, really noticeably, the height profile of the team has changed so much, and we see how much they absolutely love it. And I think a lot of the frustration Spurs found could also be sort of explained away as Arsenal defending really well and really resolutely. It was actually, there's a bit of Mourinho to
I know what you mean by
100%.
Because when they need it, and obviously the personnel kind of forced his hand a little bit, certainly clearly in terms of he views it, and he managed to sort of do a really unusual bespoke game plan for what was always going to be a challenging afternoon when you look at the players Spurs have.
But that's why Arteta is so interesting, isn't it? Because obviously, because of where he's come from, everyone thinks, Pep disciple, could he be Arsenal's version of Pep or whatever? But he's showing more and more that he's his own person. And he realises that if they're going to get to the point where they can win the league, and they got to the point where they could win the league but couldn't quite get it over the line last season, for example, if they're going to actually win the league, there needs to be a bit more practicality about them. You can't just out Manchester City. It's not possible. And Arteta is so smart and gets that. And I think that's really important. And it's weird, isn't it, in a context where people talk about set pieces and like doing set pieces well as if it's cheating or something.
Yeah.
Especially for a big club, which is nonsense. Yeah, exactly.
Well, the thing that Arteta has most in common with Guardiola is obsession. Yeah. And he channels his obsession in different ways. So like the set piece thing, specifically the corners, is fascinating because it starts with all the Arsenal players crowding Vicario, and it finishes with all the Spurs players crowding Vicario because they try to then counter that, and it doesn't make sense. They're almost using basically, why are you hitting yourself? Kind of set piece routines by the end. The other thing I thought was interesting though is like in the game, I alluded to it in terms of the team sheet the Spurs put out. It belied the lack of intensity because it looks like they're kind of like gung-ho, but they're not. They weren't quick enough with the ball. They were none of the things that they were when they started under Ange, which I suppose is the biggest worry. Yeah. And the little thing when he talks about I always win something in my second year. Obviously, like technically that's correct, but what he's alluding to is by the second year, everyone's up to speed. Yeah. Everyone's, in sync with what he wants to do and in sync with each other. But actually, there's been quite a bit of changeover in that Spurs squad in the course of a year, so it doesn't quite translate the same way. And then, like the other side of that is everything good that Spurs can point to yesterday, they were allowed to do within reason by Arsenal. I think they just managed the game spectacularly well. There were a couple of moments, obviously Solanke's chance in the first half, where if he's sharper, he probably takes a cleaner touch out of his feet initially and then gets a shot away.
Passes it. I mean, either or. It's
I think, exactly. Yeah, there's an opportunity there that doesn't come to fruition. Yeah.
I kind of wonder if that was the pitch, really, because that like that Martinelli chance in the first half where everyone was talking to him how he should have like come across. He seemed to get it caught under his feet.
Yeah, I think he got the shits put up by Van der Ven.
Right.
Oh my
definitely.
God. Van der Ven eats up ground like that guy from The Simpsons who can only afford a small automobile. Like, it's incredible to see.
Yeah. The other thing as well, how good was Jurrien Timber?
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Well, do we think he was lucky?
So you're talking about the challenge with Pedro Porro, which caused a little bit of a ruckus. Jamie Redknapp certainly thought
brilliant ruckus where Timber was trying to take out Vicario.
Yeah. Well, Vicario ended up getting booked, didn't he, as well? But
a lot of daft bookings, that being probably the daftest.
To answer the question, Andy, that's not a red card for me.
No, same.
I thought he was a little bit fortunate. I think.
But whether he's fortunate or not,
that motion, that motion of tackle, it's like the ball being there kind of saves him. Really, it reminded me of in another derby when Mamadou Dabo got sent off for Lyon against St Etienne. And his defence was a similar one. It's like, I got the ball, and the referee picked up the ball and showed it to him, and it was punctured.
That's it. What, this one? You got this one, did you?
Yeah. So I think he could have been sent off. He could have been sent off.
I think he gets enough of the ball because I don't think he's actually trying to tackle. What he's trying to do is shield the ball. So he's trying to get his foot.
He's trying to control it.
And then kind of like drag it towards himself.
Yeah.
And he gets enough of the ball that I think it's. I don't think it's a red card.
Jim, presumably you agree with Vish and me.
I think it's a red card for Porro.
Simulation.
Play acting,
and rolling around.
Delaying the restart by falling over in the first place.
I was going to ask.
Saliba got booked for delaying the restart. What are you doing? What are you doing?
There was a stat flying around that there was 7 yellow cards in the first half, the joint most in Premier League history. Yeah. And of course, there was 60 yellow cards in the Premier League this match week 4, the most ever in a single Premier League game week.
It feels like a directive, doesn't it? That they're sort of being a bit more card happy. I really thought that there was someone from either or perhaps both sides would be sent off in this game because of the way the cards are flying. Yeah, I thought the referee did well actually.
I did as well.
Like calm that.
I thought the more contentious one actually was not the red card, whether Gabriel fouled was it Romero?
Yeah. I don't think it meets the threshold personally.
No,
I've obviously got my Arsenal hat on there.
But I have more sympathy with people who are angry with that one than the Timber one.
I think Romero just has to be stronger there, doesn't he? Because when he feels that, he just sort of stops and looks around, and he has the option of it's a bustle, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, whether I've seen them given, fine, but do you think it was or not is the question rather than have you seen them given, I suppose. But look, it's a great win for Arsenal. As you said, they were depleted and so on, and Yeah, I know people say, "Oh, it's good when you win ugly," or "Well, you don't want to play ugly too many times." But it was such a solid job. He set them up really to not lose, and their quality would just shine through. And when you're so well drilled on set pieces, you've always got a chance.
I mean, Spurs did have chances. That game could have been very different. They will be looking at thinking, we maybe have missed an opportunity there. And I think, Arsenal were by nowhere near at their best. So the City game is going to be very, very interesting. Obviously, Declan Rice will be back, which will change things a fair bit. But, I mean, they have sort of landed in top form, haven't they?
Yeah.
Like just incredible. So
Indeed.
It's going to be an interesting battle.
Perhaps, but this is something that the tiny bit better news for Spurs fans. Something that came from the Netherlands on the weekend. Former Spurs striker and current AZ striker Troy Parrott had a lovely old time against Robin van Persie's team, Heerenveen, because he's the manager there, of course. AZ beat them 9-1 with Parrott scoring 4.
4 in a row as well. He took it from 1-1 to 5-1.
Incredible. Van Persie called the defeat a very big bump. Do you think Spurs fans will take anything from that?
Would I seem like a moron if I told you that Heerenveen played pretty well in the first half of that?
No, you won't sound like a moron, but I just think we won't believe you.
Yeah.
So did Troy score 4 or did he score 2 and then repeat the other 2? Hold on, stay with me. Parrot. What else do parrots do?
They
keep going.
Okay,
Jim, you feel quick. I'm practicing for Friday, Jim.
They can speak about 1,000 words. Some parrots, African greys, I think they can learn up to 1,000 words.
Wow.
So and do little songs and everything.
They often chat on my AstroTurf from a tree, so I have no time.
A parrot? Where did you live?
South East London.
Parakeets, though, they're different, aren't they?
I don't think they're parrots, are they? Despite the para in the name, paratroopers are not parrots, aren't they? We don't have time to discuss whether parakeets are parrots or not.
I've accidentally googled paramilitary. Let's move on.
Yeah, it's amazing that it was in your bookmarks, though. Andy. Before we go to a break, I just want to give you a very quick moment to talk about another derby that happened on the weekend. Wimbledon beat MK Dons 3-0. Wimbledon refused to put MK Dons' name or badge on the programme or any of their social media posts. You have kind of downplayed this and thought, how do you feel about it now that you've won 3-0?
Well, you see, I've always said that, I want to concentrate on my club rather than hating anyone else's. And someone asked me on social media whether I would come in on Monday and do an easy, easy.
And you said you wouldn't.
I'm too big for that.
No, you won't do it.
I am too big for that.
You're a professional journalist. It's beneath you to do that, isn't it?
No, I think that's
Is that your first one? I reckon it might be.
It's my first solo one.
Yeah. I joined in to give you a bit of backup there.
Oh, thanks.
So, yes.
It was enjoyable. It was very enjoyable. What an atmosphere.
What, the easy or the victory?
First goal from an indirect free kick in the box. Lovely.
Yes. Not direct, though, because that's against the rules. All right, enough of that crap, everybody. Coming up in the second half, there are even more yellow cards, of course, as we talk about Chelsea's trip to Bournemouth. Wayne Rooney gets his first win as Plymouth boss, and JZ might buy Everton. See you in a moment.
I thought we set out with a game plan, stuck to it brilliantly. The manager made subs at the perfect time and made the fucking impact, didn't it?
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. That was Ryan Yates doing an F word after Forest beat Liverpool on, I don't know which channel or broadcaster it was, but it wasn't the BBC. Thanks to friends of the Ramble, Jam Hands and Nexus for sending us that clip. You can become a friend of the Ramble too by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. You will get access to the Discord, where you can chat with us and other Ramble listeners. You'll get ad-free episodes of the Ramble up front and on the continent. And a reminder that if you want to get in touch with your stories and questions for the mailbag or respond to anything at all, then email us show@footballramble.com and we will get to it. Right, back to the cut and thrust of the Premier League. Aston Villa 3, Everton 2. They were 2-0 up again. It did feel a bit different. but it was still the same story.
It's like a sequel to a horror movie where, it is essentially just, oh no, the same thing has happened again.
Yeah.
But then in a horror movie, you'd advise, any protagonist to double tap, make sure they're dead. They've done that twice.
So did Unai Emery turn up? Did Unai Emery turn up to Sean Dyche and went, I know what you did last week? Well, that wasn't last week. There was an international break, Andy. You get the reference and the brilliant gag, though.
I do.
But yes, first time since 1958 that Everton have lost their opening 4 league matches. And they were undone by Ollie Watkins and Jhon Durán scoring an absolute belter.
Is Jhon Durán like the best striker in the world?
Could be. At times.
That way.
At times.
Yes. The answer is yes, because he's got like Darwin Núñez qualities, where it's like occasionally does. If they played up front together, it's like Hadron Collider FC.
Yeah,
the chaos would be wild.
Oh yes, it'd be like Tango and Cash. Are you having that, Andy? You having that?
I am.
But he does he does remarkable things, and then he does stupid things. Like very soon after scoring that, or maybe just before, he tried a scissor kick on his wrong foot. From like 8 yards out, and it was like blazed it over the bar. Obviously,
love it.
But it's like, well, how does your mind work?
I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? When they were trying to sell him for PSR purposes this summer.
Thank goodness they didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even
they couldn't sell him to a club. They could have probably sold him to NASA.
It was an absolute
the prospectus must have been something, right?
Yeah.
It was a beauty, an absolute beauty. And even then, Everton still had a chance to say. I mean, look, I tried. I really tried in the when we were talking about the game that they were beaten 3-2 at home against Bournemouth, and I said, look, 85 minutes at Everton, it was much better and so on. And again, I'm going to have another go for our Evertonian listeners. 2-0 up. They are scoring goals, which is very, very important. It's the hardest thing to do in football, blah, 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 blah.
And they've not played terrible.
They've not played terribly.
In
and their striker, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's among the goals.
Yeah.
Best game I've seen from him in a while.
He looked much more at the races now, unfortunately.
He's missed 2 really big chances.
Well, he has. I mean, you can say he's unlucky with the one that hit the bar. At least it didn't affect his confidence. He properly hit it. But at the end of the day, it didn't go in, and that's what matters. I found it quite intriguing, the chance he missed when he goes through on goal and it's 3-1. And he takes his time now. Konza does well to get back, but the funny thing is he just obviously didn't see Konza, because Konza actually stops or slows down because he thinks Calvert-Lewin's going to take the shot. And Calvert-Lewin is just then
trying to go
piles into him, doesn't it? Yeah, and it's that kind of...
Well, that's why Calvert-Lewin isn't elite, and that's why he is seemingly stuck on this level that he's at. As I said before, like that's the best game I've seen from a while. Partly down to fitness, actually, because he looked quick, he was sharp, he was holding people off, he was brilliant.
Well, he can hit it, he can head it, he's quick, he's sharp.
But then that was a great example of how someone is not very good in one-on-one situations, because as soon as he went through, I was like, I don't think he scores this. And at the very least, a defender's bearing down on you. Yeah, that's the whole bit of being one-on-one is them chasing you. So don't at least put your body in the way. But Konza didn't even have to tackle him.
He didn't have to.
He ran into the ball.
It reminds me of that commentary. Just put it in the net.
Yeah, there's a bit of that.
But unfortunately for Calvert-Lewin, again, it's just absolute fine margins, isn't it? Because if he goes through the second time and smacks it into the roof of the net, you go, oh, well, there we go.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's just inches, isn't it? And it's an absolute sickener.
You know what, Villa are, they're no longer the team to sort of settle for 2-2, are they? They are relentless, and they are, they've got the sort of the Emery wind in their sails, where they...
You knew they were going to come back.
They are playing every single game to win, and they are going to play that until, the 100th minute if they have to. And I suppose having
You're critical of Ange doing that.
Lunatic like Jhon, I don't remember criticising him for that. Like Jhon Durán and his sort of lunacy is exactly the kind of whirlwind you want in that situation. And I do think a lot of Everton's problems will be solved by Jared Branthwaite being available.
Well, that was a big
because, as you say, they are scoring goals. They're playing well for large periods.
Coleman was not there as well. Good to see Ollie Watkins among the goals, though, Andy, again.
Yeah, that's right. A bit of a, I suppose, slow-ish start in terms of his overall form to this season. So this was him sort of crackling into life, I suppose. I don't really know what to expect from Villa this season, because I think them going back in the Champions League is going to put an enormous strain on what is a good squad. They've got some huge games as well. You think they've got... Yeah. I mean, they're away on the 4G at Young Boys this week. And then they've got Bayern at the start of October at Villa Park. They've got some enormous games at Villa Park.
Juventus
are coming as well. So, I think for them, squirreling away as many points as possible, you're talking about, the Phil Brown theory, is really important at this point.
Is that what we're calling it now?
That's exactly what we're calling it.
Well, it wasn't a theory. I mean, it happened, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe it was his theory.
The Phil Brown project.
Phil
Proven
Brown's
syndrome. It's more of a syndrome, is it? I don't know. But either way, I don't think it's relevant. But there we are. Yes. Now, it was reported before the game that Dyche's future at Everton isn't under immediate threat. I mean, I'd be surprised even if.
But that's because they're changing ownership. Surely,
Yeah.
they'd be mad to sack him now because who would take it?
Yeah.
But if you're asking, is there or should there be a question over them not getting the results that they should out of games? Yes, there should. Because you look at the players they've got, they're not a terrible squad of players.
Yeah.
Look, I know there are associated issues with Everton, and you can't pretend that doesn't exist, and you can't pretend that doesn't have an influence. And unfortunately for Everton fans, we will be talking about that for a little bit more. And we talked like last week about how Textor's kind of like the only deal in town, really, which is not great. Having said that, the quality that they've got in the squad is more trim than it has been for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that they should be getting results, not necessarily out of this game, but globally.
Yeah, well, they've got a chance next week, Andy, as we all do. John Textor, that American chap who is trying to buy Everton, he needs a bit more money, and he's turning to whoever he can, and he's trying to draw in Jay-Z, Vish.
Yeah.
Big J. He phoned him up and said, "Hey, Jay," and he wants to get him involved in buying Everton.
There is no way that John Textor has Jay-Z's phone number.
No, but also
absolutely no
as
way.
we've seen / heard in the last week, I think Jay-Z's slightly better with numbers. So
Of course, he co-owned the Brooklyn Nets Stadium before, didn't he? The Barclays Centre. So he's got a history of sports investment
And a history of Barclays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe
wow.
you want to get involved.
Yeah. Get him in. Yeah, get him in.
If he can make money out of Everton, I really respect him.
I mean, if anyone can.
That's true, actually. Yeah. So, I don't understand Jay-Z's part in all this beyond being famous and having money.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I do now. Yeah. As you were.
Yeah. Just as I say, he's just turning to everybody. So yeah. When I said that Jay-Z might buy Everton going into the break, it was one could say that was misleading. But I'm taking John.
It hinted at an exclusive about Jay-Z, B, that he might appear on the show.
Yeah.
You got to buy tickets for Friday if you want to
That's true.
see.
That's
Maybe there'll be a special guest or two.
Yeah, who knows?
Oh, he couldn't turn up because we couldn't get hold of him. So, but great win for Villa as they go into the Champions League. And there'll be more of that chat tomorrow, of course, as we're going to preview the Champions League action this week. And there's a lot of it, everybody. Two sides that are not going to be in the Champions League this season are Bournemouth and Chelsea. Chelsea won 1-0. 14 yellow cards in this game. A Premier League record, everybody. Well done all round. Incredible, it was just the one goal, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, Bournemouth had some really, really good chances. They looked really good.
They had a penalty even.
They did have a penalty, yeah.
What a save that was.
It was a good save, but the second time I saw it, initially it looked like it was closer to the corner than it actually was, but it's still coming at him at some rate, and it's a good save.
I thought you were going to say, well, yeah, but you'd expect the keeper to save that.
Tavernier hit at the bar as well. He did. Absolutely delicious shot. It would have been one of those sort of goals of the season in a weekend full of contenders for that. It's impressive from Chelsea, isn't it? There's a bit of resilience there. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, Maresca looks like he knows what he's doing. It wasn't perhaps the crazy appointment that people thought it was.
Yeah, I thought it would be a good appointment. He doesn't seem to be that flustered.
No, not at all. He seems to be completely ready for this level of job. And again, he's worked under Pep Guardiola, isn't he? He understands what this kind of level of football is like.
Vish, you have a differing opinion by the look on your face.
I don't think he's in control of what's happening right now on the field. Because, as you said before, Bournemouth started
just because your egg has no control doesn't mean that all eggs have no control.
I'm just eggs of a feather.
Egg never falls far from the chicken.
Yeah, It can't do, can it? Good break.
You would think, wouldn't you?
But it was just because of how open they were. The fact that it took Chelsea so late to get a goal that had been coming, actually, and also little things that, and I suppose this does change it more in Maresca's favour, but there was that break where Madueke runs through the middle where if he plays it earlier to Nicholas Jackson, they have I'm hesitant to say a goal, but they're going to have an opportunity on goal, which doesn't eventuate because it's offside in the end. There are loads of other moments like that where I don't necessarily see the set plays beyond what Chelsea did really well last season. And that is just, give the keys to Cole Palmer and get Madueke and Jackson to make clever runs. And, Sancho coming on was nice. It was good to see him. Again, I didn't think he did all that much, but there was clearly he remembered who he was, if that makes sense.
Well, okay,
he was happy to stand up defenders.
To sum it up,
take them
he
on.
got man of the match.
Yeah, but did you not think that was a little bit odd? Do you
Well,
think
but I think that sums it up. It was just a mad game. And
Yeah.
it was kind of like who sort of stood out. And
But then I
actually,
thought Nkunku was better when he came on, but I don't know.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
he got the goal, obviously. I mean, Sancho kind of set him up. I mean, yeah, look, so when I was saying about Maresca, I think he's not, doesn't seem too flustered. I mean, all things considered, with regards to performances on the pitch, yeah, they still need to convince a bit more.
I think the thing is, the fact that Sancho and Nkunku came on and were so influential really underlines the fact that Chelsea are a work in progress all over again. Because those two, once they get to a point where they are functioning and good, those two are in the 11. They're not on the bench.
Yeah, right.
So that sort of underlines something. But I think with Sancho, we all want to believe, don't we?
Yes.
So when he comes on and has some moments like that, and he occupied defenders, he looked willing to take them on. I think at the end of that, it's easy to sort of name him man of the match because you're like, oh, well, he kind of looks like old Sancho.
I know what you mean.
It sticks in the mind a bit more, doesn't it?
But
Yeah.
the thing about it's the three subs they brought on: Nkunku, Sancho, and Felix.
Yeah.
I mean, what talent that is!
Yeah,
It's
unbelievable.
a great squad.
I mean, that is.
It's unbelievable.
It's just,
squad, yeah.
can you get it playing together, which has been the case or the question for a year or two now.
Yeah, and I suppose the key thing about Maresca is he came into his situation where he was actually aware of the ins and outs.
Yes.
He knew what he was stepping into. And I think you see that sometimes in his press conferences where he's dismissive about some things. He's not afraid to almost contradict himself. I suppose you will use a Sterling thing as an example of the promises he made to Sterling and then what he ended up having to say publicly. And I think, if you really drill down on it, maybe you'd say there were character flaws, but essentially in this very fickle world, in this very fickle industry, I think he's already shown himself to be a bit Teflon in some ways, which is probably an ideal character trait for a Chelsea manager.
Well, it's the way to retain your sanity there.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the results so far this season, and not including the UEFA Conference League playoff, which they won, although it was slightly unconvincing. Yet they lose to Man City on the opening day. Well, okay.
Yeah, and they were pretty good in that game.
Yeah, they weren't terrible. They hammer Wolves, although it was a crazy game, but they scored 6 goals, so you've got to mention that at least. A draw at home to Palace would, in terms of results, was slightly disappointing, and then they beat Bournemouth. So, it's been a fairly unremarkable start, but I don't think it's been terrible. And I think with Maresca's style of play, I think that it seems to be like he's trying sort of slowly but surely trying to implement it. Whether he can or not is the question. But I don't think he's rushing them too much. Some managers go, right, this is how we play, and everyone's a bit like, well, hang on a minute, this is and it's very sloppy, and they're dropping more points than perhaps they would have liked. So
there's a practicality to it.
Yeah, there is, and I think that I think he's, all things considered, and it is a madhouse there. I think he's done all right. To start with. I found it interesting what he said about Jadon Sancho, actually. He said, I have the feeling that Jadon needs love. Is that a dig at Erik ten Hag?
Well, yeah, probably, because...
Don't sound so surprised.
No, but
I think he's really digging true, can't it?
I think it's just... just humanity, just being a human, yeah. But also I would say so, yeah.
All right, don't be so serious about it.
No, what do you want me to do?
Don't worry. I want you to tell me what's
I
going on.
can do with a bit of love right now.
Yeah,
okay.
Jim, I would like you to comment on Mr. Iriola's comments after the game. He wasn't happy with the referee. He said, I will not talk about the referee. I've been talking and it's not working. I will try the opposite, not talk, and see if something happens. Does that work?
Is he this season's Gary O'Neill? Is that what's happening here?
The referee's there thinking, oh no, I'm being given the silent treatment by a Premier League manager. Whatever will I do?
Yeah. Well, if all managers tried that, it'd be very interesting, wouldn't it?
To be fair, Iriola has a quite frightening grin. If he just grins at the referee and stares without saying anything, I think that might be quite effective.
Very true.
Well, what's the frightening bit? You think he might crash a car or something?
He turns into Paul Bearer. That's what's frightening.
Oh, for me, he has that Ferris Bueller's Day Off vibe.
Does he?
Yeah, definitely.
That's not scary at all.
Well, it is if you're his mate's dad who owns that flash car, aren't you?
What? So he looks. You think he looks like Ferris Bueller?
No, I think he looks like Matthew. Yeah, I think he looks like Matthew Broderick in Ferris Bueller. Yeah.
Are you? What part of him is scary in that film?
No, nothing scary. He annoys his dad, the guy for crashing the car. He doesn't scare him, does he? You should let me do the Paul Bearer thing. Thing about Paul Bearer. And if you mess with him, you get the Undertaker around him. Okay?
Yeah.
Right.
That's.
I have no idea who that is.
Paul Bearer.
Ooh,
You know the Undertaker, don't you? The wrestler.
Not really, you know.
What do you mean not really? You either know someone or you don't. Well, you've just seen him from behind. What do you mean?
Wasting your time watching football from other countries.
Yeah.
You know who the
don't even know
Undertaker
about
is.
the
You've
Undertaker.
been backed into a corner and you don't know where to go. Now you're denying the Undertaker exists.
Honestly,
I've heard his name, but I've never watched wrestling.
Honestly, you're in for a treat. Read into it. It's a bit slow to get going, but then Kane gets involved. It's brilliant. Honestly,
Right.
It's like The Bear, season 2.
It's like, I don't know, Lord of the Rings, Jim, is it? I don't know. Anyway, talking of scary people, former Chelsea man Diego Costa.
I love that you bring up that you don't know about Lord of the Rings in the context of this conversation.
I thought it was relevant.
I've never read a Harry Potter in my life.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Neither have I, mate. I haven't seen any of the films either. Now, Diego Costa. A former Chelsea man, but current scary man, is at Gremio. Now, he was involved.
This was amazing.
He was involved. Costa was playing an under-20s game to regain fitness. To get him out there, run around a bit with the youngsters. He ended up fighting with the youngster and getting sent off, obviously. No matter what the game.
The kid goes in hard on him, but it's hard to get sent off in those games. Like the whole point is that it's just about fitness and
Totally,
practicing shape and etc. 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 The threshold is higher, and he still absolutely had to go.
He loves it.
Is this how they banned XL bullies?
I think it is. Shocking behaviour. How about that? Right, we're going to finish with a little bit of championship chat because Wayne Rooney's Plymouth Argyle got their first win of the season. 93rd minute winner against top of the league Sunderland. Great celebrations with Rooney and the backroom staff. Did you fancy old Wayne? It was a bit karaoke. Was there any reports of that after the game?
I mean, whatever's going on in Plymouth, I'm sure he was all over it.
Yeah. It's good to see Wazza happy.
It is good to see Wazza happy. Luke and I were on 5 Live on Saturday, and we had some people call in who were on the way from Sunderland to Plymouth, and I just want to extend my sympathies to you guys for such a long trip to lose in that manner. I hope the journey was better than the experience.
Sounds like you're slagging them off.
No, it's such a long way.
Yeah,
such a long way.
Yeah, people think it's a small country, but it's got a big heart.
I think they think it's a small country from the way you carry on.
Oh, I see. Unbelievable. Andy enjoyed that one. There was late drama at Hillsborough. Barry Bannon thought his 93rd minute volley, which was a beauty, by the way, was enough to beat QPR. But QPR equalised in the 96th minute after a goalmouth scramble for the ages. When you watch those clips from, I don't know, the 70s or 80s, sometimes even the 90s, when you see a good old goalmouth scramble, you think, I don't know who scored that, and I don't know if that should have been allowed.
Yeah.
And it surely
looked like there were a couple of crimes in there.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But it was one of them. It was a wonderful throwback. And
Are the goalkeepers up there as well, just confusing things?
Yeah,
I swear the manager was involved as well. I think he scored.
Just having 5 different shirts in the penalty box, including the referees. Mad.
It felt very weird watching it in high definition, didn't it?
Yeah, because also, you alluded to it there, like, seeing it in 2024, you're waiting for the foul, aren't you?
Yeah.
Someone's going to do something wrong here. But
Was it as strange as seeing Derby's Ebu Adams missing an open goal against Cardiff?
See, the thing about this clip, right, I obviously knew that he's missed an open goal.
Check these clips out, by the way, because it's incredible.
When I've been sent it, and even knowing that he misses an open goal, I cannot believe he doesn't score. Like, it's still a shock.
Yes.
Like, he had the whole goal to aim at. There's no one in front of him, and he just sort of tamely screws it wide. I'm not even sure it goes out. He hits it so badly.
It was a shocker. Absolute shocker.
I think it's so bad that it's grounds to have your professional contract revoked.
Yeah.
By the governing body.
He should be
mitigating circumstances.
Because the way he kicks it as well, it's like, have you accidentally been found out here?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Of all the people I expected to go John Sitton on this show, I didn't have you.
Yeah, sorry.
Really.
Can I have a pie? It's a different bloke, isn't it?
It was like he should be docked wages for that. It was that
Awful.
bad. Absolutely shocking.
Cheers for watching another fantastic clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Make sure you click like on this video and subscribe to the channel, which means you will not miss a single upload.